Good afternoon and welcome to this amazing episode of Later. I'm media expert, always guest, and it's an honor to be here to moderate this session or customers. We're going to start with Stephanie. Prime Minister and the President of the Council, the Secretary General. In the end, we will allow President to express five questions and we will three questions from all of the from Europe, and then we have one from Africa. There will be the rest of the two remaining from our Greece and Central.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today with the 46 council ministers. This is a closing chapter for the Ordinary Division Council Ministers. Putting together delegates from the state countries, and I think the dynamics of the meeting was very good, participatory, constructive manner, discussions that have resulted in few recommendations. In the Secretariat will play a role in this, and I think our presence here in Samoa is very historic. Thank much to our Prime Minister, Samoa Independent State, and all who accept us in this place in all their government. And the process of the meeting today went very well. We have a lot of discussions, a lot of ideas, the dream to us, the dream of enlightenment. The process of participation and the future engagement with this Samoa meeting, because every country needs to feel the ownership and the spirit of ownership, partnership in understand the process is very, very important. And I think the Secretary General and our technical team work very well. We're really thankful for all those who have worked hard within the Cotonou agreement to make things happen in more than 2 decades. It's really very important for the good and for the development of our humanity. This is one of the huge organizations, or ACPs. I think we have a long mission to bring to the world, to bring to people and development. I think we are here to testimony this very long last for us.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Chair. I think that we have come somewhat all very well inspired and at least pleased, because we've come to the end of the process, which has taken us 5 years. We started these negotiations, as initially said, in 2018. We initiated the process in 2021, and we have been waiting since then. And I'm also pleased to announce that our partners, the European Union, a long-standing partner for our countries, signed from the 23rd of July 2023. And indeed, today we have come here to Samoa to honor this moment. And I think that it is particularly a very important moment for the OACPS to conclude this agreement, which, as you all know, over the past many years and for the future, for the next 20 years, helps quite a number of our countries in building their sustainability in their countries, to develop their countries. And I think that over history, we have also developed a relationship which is unique with the European Union. So we believe that by coming to Samoa today, we have expressed this morning that we will tomorrow honor the final moments of this agreement, which will then begin its professional implementation on the 1st of January 2024. And I think that all aspects therein are generally very good for the members of the OECD. So I think what else is the occasion, on one hand, to thank the governments of the United States of Samoa and our Excellency, the Prime Minister, who over the past few years has been supporting us to make sure that we work well. And I think we have now concluded. Probably not all the 69 signed, a good number will sign tomorrow, and we believe that all countries have their own constitutional processes which we respect, and therefore the most important thing for us is that we're going to celebrate tomorrow the 60th as if we really need that the world, all eyes now on Samoa, at least and also some of the issues that recently in fact sanctions.
Well, you know, our organization has three distinct regions: Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific. And in many of the international fora we belong to, you know, we always talk about how important the diversity of the membership is, and recognizing, you know, the specificities of circumstances and challenges faced by different countries, different regions. So I think what is important in these kinds of organizations, including ours, ACP EU, is that the family come to this part of the world. They can see where we're faced and have a much better appreciation, I think, of where we are drawing, you know, our values, our commitments, our particular challenges. So it's not only SAMA, but it's also Pacific. I think a few of the delegations were able to be around attending the Pacific Island Forum, so they saw yet another place and a particular context of the Pacific region. So usually for this significant and it's a broader representation, I think we come to build better understanding of, you know, where our particular members are coming from.
Thank you very much. I was going to ask you, Secretary, when you were saying Portuguese,
Muito obrigado, boa tarde. Uma ocasião muito importante estar aqui em Samoa para presidir o Conselho dos Ministros, dos membros da CP, e eu acho que é muito importante participar deste evento tão histórico aqui em Samoa, devido à hospitalidade da Primeira-Ministra e do povo de Samoa, e também rever os processos, os mecanismos dentro da organização, com a ANT e a União Europeia, em conjunto durante as suas décadas de existência, no percurso com o Acordo Cotonou, as implementações dos programas, a avaliação, e eu acho que os Estados-membros estão aqui para ver a situação e como reforçar melhor a forma de entrar no conjunto para o acordo nesse mundo.
Muito obrigado. Thank you very much. Now, well, as we say, we will have three from our colleagues in Europe, and one from Africa, and then we will have the others, our colleagues here in Singapore. So let's start. Three, you want to start?
Is there a microphone or I just yell?
Well, are you able to yell?
Let's find out. My question is to the Secretary General. You told the ACP member states recently that the Secretariat's finances are in a critical condition, and there's probably multiple reasons for that. Some of them I've reported on. Renting a house and paying €1 million a year for rent and failing to renovate your initial headquarters with a 17 million grant from the European Commission, being unable to recuperate €81,000 from France, facing €5 million in legal liability for a restructure which you oversaw, and yet you're only able to use 47% of the grant from the EU every year. And the ACP has 400,000 or 500,000 euros in the bank and 4.1 million from the EU. So my question is, how do you intend to achieve the objectives that we're all here describing today? And does that pathway also pass by a continued conversation with the Gulf countries and with China about a financial contribution to the Secretariat? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, the questions you don't think there are many things which may not necessarily be related, but I think that any international organization has to look into how to make its contribution sustainable. I think that one of the things that has affected probably our contribution over the past few years is the fact that we finished our negotiations in 2020 and we initialed in 2021. I have the impression personally that we needed to stimulate a little bit more our member states. Member states probably were thinking, well, what's going to happen? Is this relationship going to continue? Is it coming to an end? How do we move? But member states are also very hampered by the COVID pandemic. The members are telling me, well, where are you going to contribute? So those are some of the concrete situations that member states have faced. But others have continued to face. Now, naturally, as you know, our budget, you have part coming from the grant of the EU and then part of it coming from member states who contribute. Now, that's how our budget is done. And once what we contribute is not enough, then we're going to pay back what we may have used from the European side. And therefore, naturally, one of the commitments I was committed to is to raise other funds. And I have been traveling to other regions of the world and talking to other partners who are considering to contribute to our funds. But also, the members of the OECS have created an endowment trust to which they have contributed close to $2 million. And we also organized the department or that secretariat. I believe it's a director which will be independent from the OECS, which will work on mobilizing funds for the OECS. It's not an easy process, but they know that. But we will have somebody who will employed directly to raise funds for the OECS. Now, the restructuring of the OECS, of our former headquarters, to transform them into a better leading place, that was a project which I inherited from the previous administration. And naturally, this issue is led by a group of ambassadors. They've been looking into how well our staff and our people can work in Brussels. They've been discussing between selling the old house and acquiring a new one, and then invest part of the contribution from the EU and acquiring new ones. I was just exchanging during this session about an hour ago with the ambassador's lady. He feels that there were 3 different buildings that were identified. There is one which our partners feel that it's probably too big and probably may not have the resources. But there is another one which is smaller, which could be the option. But then the ambassador will report to the committee of ambassadors will be making finance. Indeed, the challenge of an organization like this is to continuously make sure that member states pay their dues. And sometimes we will have to wait and make sure that they use it. And naturally, that's the only way we can also maintain the not an easy process. But I do believe that member states will honor their commitment with the organization, because that's what makes the strength of the organization. So I still believe that it is a particular moment. I think that sometimes it first slow, but we are continually talking to our member states to make sure that they honor their commitments as far as their contributions are concerned with the region.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. I think another question? Or let's have a question from Madame. Yeah? Oui, mais Madame Français, les institutions, nous n'avons pas un traducteur. Pardon? Mais pourquoi pas? Oui, moi je peux répondre.
Alors, je voudrais d'abord avoir une idée, bien savoir quels étaient les enjeux du Conseil des ministres de ce mois. C'est quoi exactement?
Deuxièmement, il y a un accord historique qui sera signé demain, qui est donc le successeur de l'accord de Cotonou. Je voudrais savoir quelles sont les particularités de l'accord qui sera signé demain. Quelles sont les spécificités de cet accord? On laisse Cotonou pour rentrer dans l'accord de niveau de diplôme. Qu'est-ce qui marquera la fonction? Ou alors qu'est-ce qui marquera? Quels seront les points de différence? Ça, c'est une question. Maintenant, toujours au sujet de cet accord, je voudrais savoir quel est le bilan des conflits de l'accord de Cotonou au moment où on rentre dans l'accord de Saint-Denis. Quel est le bilan des faits de cet accord? Est-ce que c'est un succès? Et quelle a été la part de l'effet? Est-ce que nous avons pensé à l'accord-là? Quelle est la part de l'effet? Est-ce que nous avons dans le gros partenariat que nous sommes en train de voir, dans le nouvel accord qui nous voulons signer demain, est-ce que ça fait part dans la liste?
Merci madame. Je crois que vous posez une question très pertinente et dans trois volets. D'abord, vous avez demandé à savoir qu'est-ce qui s'est passé ce matin au cours de la session du Conseil des ministres. Ensuite, qu'est-ce qui va se passer demain ou pourquoi l'accord de Cotonou et qu'est-ce qu'il y a comme avantage dans cet accord Samoa. Donc, Cotonou devient Samoa. Pourquoi et qu'est-ce que nous avons fait? Bon, d'abord, je pense que ce qu'il faut considérer, c'est que à chaque fois que nous prenons des décisions au niveau de l'OACP, l'organe suprême qui prend ces décisions, c'est le Conseil des ministres, qui lui se base sur les propositions du comité des ambassadeurs. Tous les membres de l'OACP ont des ambassadeurs à Bruxelles qui discutent l'essentiel des questions qui sont adoptées ou qui guident les ministres. Les ministres représentent leur gouvernement et en ce qui concerne leur relation entre les États de l'OACP et l'Union européenne. Donc, au cours de cette session ce matin, les ministres ont pris l'information de tout ce que le comité d'ambassadeurs nous a fourni pour ce qui concerne la prochaine signature, donc la signature demain de l'accord de Samoa. Alors, donc, ces questions ont été discutées. Nous avons aussi entendu au cours de cette non seulement les propositions, mais nous avons aussi entendu les États qui ne vont pas signer. Il y en a 34. Donc, ils ont également informé les membres. Mais ils ont donc informé les membres en disant qu'ils ne vont pas signer, mais il reste quand même membre de l'OAS. Alors, demain, ce qui va avoir lieu, c'est la signature de l'accord de Samoa. Donc, Cotonou est fini, Cotonou a duré 20 ans, et Cotonou est fini. Mais un changement fondamental dans cela. C'est que, comme vous le savez, dans l'accord de Cotonou, la plupart de cette coopération a été financée par le FED. Donc, le FED va cesser d'exister et il y aura donc maintenant ce qu'on appelle l'aide globale. Donc, ça sera un seul qui va financer donc cette relation. Mais cette relation est dans l'accord politique global qui touche plusieurs secteurs de la vie socio-politique, économique d'un pays, y compris celles qui ont à voir avec les questions environnementales. Donc, si vous voulez, c'est en fait une nouvelle étape dans le processus de relations que nos pays ont gardé avec l'Union européenne.
Thank you very much. We have one more question from your side, and after that, we will have our ladies from the side. Please, please.
How many countries? I tried. Okay.
It's working.
How many countries? How many countries and which countries have signed the agreement right now? What are the arguments they say because of not signing them? And isn't that strange that after so many years of negotiations, today that you are going to sign it tomorrow, that our countries are not going to sign that?
Well, thank you very much. Indeed, we have 54 countries registered in Brussels to come with us to sign. 40 will sign tomorrow. A few have said that they have delays in their constitutional procedures that do not allow them to sign now. You know, in some countries they need that the parliament debates the agreement before government can sign. So there are 3 who mentioned those internal procedures, and as you know, we do respect whatever countries may mention as far as their internal procedures are concerned. Some needed that they need to clarify how they would sign because I think they were worried of the fact that they couldn't express their reservation. So, however, I think that I agree with you that, well, this agreement has been discussed and agreed upon in 5 years. I think as far as we are concerned on our side, we still have time. Some of them say, well, initially there was an agreement that it would stay open until May, that's 6 months, but then there is some argument, well, they needed a year. Well, whichever solution or decision we take is that some of them need a little bit of time before they can come and sign, and we do respect that because the problem is that they only start discussing about signing the agreement after the European Union say they will sign. But most of all the 27 European parties have already signed since Brussels. And on our side, there are 40 who are signing, and there are others who will be present but may not sign, but will sign in due time during from now until next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General. Now, we will have one question from the city, and
Thank you, Mr. Chikoti. So I didn't understand very well which African countries refused to sign. And I have another question about the non-participation of North African countries in this kind of agreement. I don't know say that. That's already my question.
You say that you want to know the number of the named countries. Well, they did not refuse actually to sign. They say they can sign now, but they can sign later. And the explanation is because of their constitutional specific issues that imply that it got the authorization from Parliament.
Namibia, Ethiopia.
Yes, yes. Those are the two who mentioned the constitutional issues, but they did not put in question the agreement. They still agree with the agreement. Jamaica said they had some issues as well, which are also constitutional, but they will still come to sign. So, anyway, for us, the agreement is available, it's present, and I think that for us, it's really a very great moment to be here. It has taken us a very, very long way, and we are very pleased to be in Samoa. We want to be an occasion to celebrate this important relationship between our country and the European Union, and we're very pleased to be here.
And at the time of the free African trade market, the non-presence of North African countries like
Morocco, Algeria, and other countries, what do you see the fact that they are not part of this agreement?
Well, honestly, I would not compare with any agreement that some countries have with other partners. This is a partnership agreement between our country of the OECD and the European Union, and it is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now one from the Pacific and then one from Samoa. Please, our colleagues.
Anyone of the Pacific here? Yeah, go ahead, Samoa. Go ahead, Samoa.
Actually, one of the aspects the ministers discussed this morning is to adopt the proposal that the OECD is making for COP28, particularly for the SEEDS countries. And in our recent discussions, and those who were in Rarotonga, in Cook Islands, you may have seen how much the European Union is committed to the environmental perspective in the Pacific. I think in one of the meetings we had, they spoke about financing, and I think most of the countries in the Pacific region spoke about climate change, the impact of cyclones, the impact of seawater rising, and all these issues are indeed in the package that we think we should continue to engage the European Union with, and the European Union said there were about 600 million euros that can be dedicated to environmental challenges. So I think the issue of climate change is indeed an important part of our cooperation with the EU in this area.
Just quickly, Prime Minister, would you say something on that question? Interesting, your main
Apart from my own intervention that focused on implementation
from the Pacific, please? No? Well, I suppose we've come to the end. Thank you very much, Prime Minister, President of the Council, Secretary General, and my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Another one. Thank you.